So my name is Tony Brown. I'm here at the Federal Reserve Bank, and I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to our what's turned out to be an annual event, and this is the 5th annual Japan American Society of Georgia / Federal Reserve Bank joint luncheon. This has been a very good arrangement for both of us. We've been able to bring in a group of individuals that is a great demographic for us at the Federal Reserve Bank here. But it's also been a terrific forum for us because the topics, we've had a range of topics for the past 4 or 5 years. Ranging from, we had the previous governor of the Bank of Japan, Shirakawa-san, talk to us about the fiscal consequences of aging in Japan and extend a warning to us here in the United States that we should be careful. We've talked about womenomics. Last year we talked about smart cities. And this year we're very pleased. The theme for this year is going to be sports and the economy. And the brainchild for this actually came from Yoshi and the directors of the Japan American Society of Georgia about hosting the Super Bowl here, having the Braves just recently moved into the new facility, and having Japan hosting the Olympics next year in 2020. We thought this was a good time to touch on this topic. So we have, I'll just point out that they'll get formal introductions in a few minutes, but I want to thank Mike Plant from the Braves for showing up, and also Ichiro Yamaguchi from the Mainichi Shimbun newspaper, the oldest newspaper in Japan. Thank you very much, and enjoy your lunch.
Appreciate the Federal Reserve Bank, and as you've heard, there's been a whole series of these opportunities to learn more about our mutual interests. We appreciate all of you taking time out to join us. Today, for the sports impact, the true economic impact of sports, and I also predict there will be some aspects of diplomacy related to the art and science of sports. I'm Al Hodge. I'm the Vice Chair of the Japan American Society of Georgia. Very happy to see each of you here today. And it's my pleasure to, at least initially, introduce our special speakers, Mike Plant, President and CEO of the Atlantic Braves Development Company, and senior member of the Olympics and Paralympics Promotion Office in the Mainichi newspaper company, Ichiro Yamaguchi. Visiting with us today is the President of the National Association of Japan American Societies, Mr. Peter Kelly. Representing the state of Georgia and our Economic Development Office today is Joseph Hunteman. We appreciate Joseph being here. We also appreciate Bob Berry joining us today. Bob is an attorney in Rome with the Princeton, Askew, Berry, Siegler, Richardson, and Davis firm. They represent the city of Rome, the Development Authority. They represent the newspaper, in fact. And so we appreciate the fact that Bob is here, and Bambi has been involved in the Tomodachi Club for many years as well. So it's very nice to have a special guest here from Rome, Georgia. To begin our event, we also want to thank these organizations that are an integral part of the U.S.-Japan series. They include the National Association of Japan American Societies, the Sasakawa Reserve Bank of Atlanta, the Atlanta Braves Development Company, of course, the Olympics and Paralympics Promotion Office of the Mainichi newspaper company. We also have today 2 former chairs of the Japan American Society of Georgia, Day Lancaster with Emily I. Brandon Goddard, and immediate past chair, Bob Johnson of the Baker Donaldson firm. So it's very nice to have all of you. We invite you to enjoy your lunch, and we will begin shortly. Thank you.
I'm the Executive Director of the Japan American Society of Georgia. I'm so glad that you all were able to make it to our special program today. Certainly with Atlanta hosting the Super Bowl recently, in Tokyo hosting the Olympics in 2020 next year. Sports is certainly in our forefront here in Atlanta and in Japan. So It's definitely an honor here at the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta. But now it's my honor to introduce you to our first speaker. So Mr. Mike Plant is the president and CEO of the Atlanta Braves Development Company. He oversees the daily business functions of the Braves and the Battery Atlanta. Prior to joining the Braves, he was executive vice president of Turner Sports, as well as Turner Sports Goodwill Games. Mike has also founded a sports marketing company called Medalist Sports that held cycling events throughout the United States and China. As president and CEO of the Braves Development Company, he has led the development of the Battery Atlanta next to SunTrust Park in Cobb County, bringing new businesses and fans to the Atlanta Braves. From the Atlanta Braves, let's, with the warm, raucous welcome, invite Mike Plant to come up here. And then the reigning National League East Division champs, and then this year's World Series champ, right? So, Mr. Mike Plant.
Make sure I have the little clicker right. My 2 weeks on my job as the president of Goodwill Games for Ted Turner, and so my pleasure being here. And you know, I thought at first when I found out what the topic was to talk about was the sports economy in America, you know, that was going to take a lot of time and a lot of research, and I probably would bore you with just a bunch of numbers and statistics, but as Yoshi said, I think Atlanta has been, certainly in the last 5 years, demonstrated with two brand new beautiful sports facilities in Mercedes-Benz Stadium and SunTrust Park and the entire Battery, that we've kind of changed the landscape of how sports can definitely impact the economy. I know we're going to hear from Michiro about the Olympic Games. I've 40 years been involved in the Olympic movement as well. Korea in 2018 was my 19th Olympic Games that I've attended in some role or capacity. I was on the board here for ACOG for 7 years. So I understand the Olympic world as well, and I also understand when we made this announcement we were moving from Turner Field, former Olympic Stadium for the Atlanta Games, to SunTrust Park, and we were going to build this destination. We're going to transform this area as part of Cobb. Very quickly to remind me of the Olympic Games, because the two things, if you were in Atlanta, that you quickly reacted to was money, who's going to pay for this, and traffic. And that's what everyone in the Olympic world deals with. This is a bold statement, but I say it with a lot of conviction. This is the model for public-private partnership and churning the economy with a sports facility as a catalyst of anywhere in the world right now. Tomorrow I have AC Milan here. We've had well over 100 teams from all over the world in the last 24 months come and see what we built, because it is the model we're going for. So just essentially, that's a little bit more than 4 years ago. That's what that piece of property looked like. We started clearing the trees and we moved the retention vault, but the big thing is the reason that piece of property at the corner of 75 to 85 was available, there were three major pipelines pumping petroleum 24/7 from Houston to New Jersey. And no one ever thought that you could move those. I didn't think you could move them. We got them moved. There were 2 5-minute conversations. Everyone that signed an NDA when we were in this process, when I told the 2 CEOs what we were going to do, they fell off their chair and quickly got back on and said, so I guess I need to move my pipelines on. I said, well, that'd be really great if you could. And the CEO, Tim Cook, said, yeah, we can do that. So you just have to pay for them. So it's $14.5 million to move them around the outside perimeter. But that's what made that piece of property. But we knew how important it was that when we played our first game in April of 2017, I always said to the 8 different general contractors that we had to have playing the same sandbox together, I didn't want to see a single crane in the air. We had 14 of them at one point, and I didn't want any Georgia red clay flowing down the streets. Because if that would have happened the day we played our first game in April, none of you would have come. Because you would have, the perception would have been, we still had a construction site going on there, and let's just wait till they're done, we don't have to put our boots on. So that was our objective, and we accomplished it with the team that we put together and the standard of excellence by the barrel. It was like, oh, here we go, we're going to sponsor and support the new baseball stadium. Why are they doing this? Turner Field's fine. Look, I'm the one that was at the center of this. I tried for 8 years to get a deal done downtown, transform that area, build a destination, a reason for more than 81 games that you would want to come there instead of just parking your car there and leaving after the game. And, you know, I could write a book on it, but I won't. For some reason, couldn't get it done, and then we had to look at options. I went off the Christmas card list with the mayor. He and I didn't see eye to eye on this, but unfortunately we took $1.5 billion and moved it up the road, 5,200 new jobs, and we created a year-round environment to transform this entire area. And they understood, well overused, but it defines what it is: live, work, play, create that 24/7 type of environment, and you can see it's a pretty impressive lineup. So what is the battery? Mixed people, most developers could never dream of doing this. We're $300 million in this project before we signed our first lease. You won't find a developer in the country that will break ground until they're probably 60% lease. You can't find a bank that will finance that unless we come here to Federal Reserve and get a little bit of cash. But most banks aren't going to finance that. We're starting now phase two. Phase two is another $300 million, 850,000 square feet. You've got ThyssenKrupp, global company, German company, their shafts. It's a 50-year deal. It started out with them just wanted to build a tower, and I said, well, that's a nice idea, but now we're going to build another office there right at the corner of 285 and Cobb Parkway. And little by little, me saying, no, it's not enough. We've got 900 employees from all over North America. This will be their North American headquarters. One of the beauties I like about this is that third bullet point. That number says 10,000. I know it's a lot more than that. But they will bring every technician, every client from around North America. This is where they're coming. They'll stay an average 3 to 5 nights in a visit. So again, I've always said I'd love it to sit up on a sports economist panel now, because they're still out there. They're still the guys that have written books about the field of schemes and all the reasons that sports don't drive the economy. And as I said earlier, we changed all that. We changed all that. Not with just SunTrust Park as a standalone. We changed it all with everything we did for the destination that we created with the battery type of company. Games a year. We knew we were going to play at least 81 games. We all, my colleagues over here, that were playing 91 pretty soon again, because that means we're playing all the way through October. But internally, we called it 274. What do we do in those other 274 days a year? So we knew that concerts, we looked at their opportunity in Atlanta where there was a void of a certain occupancy. So we built the Roxy Theater. It's about 53,000 square feet. We host 50 concerts a year in there, up to about 4,000 people. Again, 50 concerts a year, driving restaurants, driving more interest, bringing more people there to continue to churn that economy. Turner Field, 50,000 seats, had really some would say 2.5, maybe 3 access points. We jammed most of you coming south into those first 4 lots that were north of the stadium, 6,000 parking spaces, give or take. But when we were sold out at 50,000 seats, we were 5,000 parking space void of what we needed there. No mass transit there, and so you drove your car there and you went into the mosh pit downtown. I used to love it. I did phone calls, and Paul probably got them too. You know, on a Friday night, someone would say, "Hey man, the traffic's terrible here." And I'm like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "I'm in Buckhead." And I'm like, "Okay, Buckhead, that's like 12 miles away. That's 500,000 people coming to our game. That's not all us, all right? We are not causing all this event." But we got blamed for it. Control and operate with ourselves. And it has worked impeccably well right from the start. And that's where I think a team making sure you never lose control of that environment is what we can look you in the eye and say, this is going to work. Geo-mapped all these through a platform with ways where no longer you're driving around and saying, well, where is that Delta deck? I mean, it geo-maps right to the entranceway of that gate. And then, you know, people are coming early, they're staying later. Why? Because we have things for you to do there. There's 22 restaurants there. There's lots of activation activities, and all that has helped, certainly with traffic. Uber and Lyft, but Uber, I'll say, because they're our sponsor, we do over 4,000 drop-off and pickups a game. All that's helping to make that, you know, my life is over, it's going to be a nightmare, and it all has worked very, very well. We're building a new hotel, a loft. It's all going vertical actually now. Small little grocery store, a little bit more loft office. We tucked it all in there pretty well, though. Another visual, again, just, you know, infrastructure alone was over $100 million. And you know, we did 37 different land plans. All this is happening during this 36 months and shifting gears a number of times, and you had to pivot quick, you had to be decisive quick. quick. I told my colleagues here at the table, a big picture of General Patton in my office, because that's what they called me behind my back. And I was fine with that. You had to drive every day, and you could not be faint or weak of heart. You had to make decisions, and I always said, look, Ted Williams was the best in baseball at 408, his batting average. That would be really bad in this business. So you had to be close to 1,000%, but it wasn't perfect. But we had an organization and we knew how to pivot, and we knew how to make things happen, and we had a team that believed in that as well. That's that Silver Spot Movie Theater. That's 11 theaters. Again, you know, high-end type of theater, serve some food, serve some beverages, margaritas and wine. The thing I like about these guys as well is they're not going to compete too heavily with our restaurants. Also, they'll do events like Live at the Met. You'll be able to go in there and watch a live performance at the Met instead of going to New York or DC, the National Cathedral and stuff. And they tie into some live events there in addition to movies. That's that fit space that we'll control, about 150 capacity. We'll do dinners up there, receptions up there. Maybe we'll host the Federal Reserve up there one night, but the views will be absolutely majestic. It'll have 2 lit up elevators going all the way up there. And yes, you will be pretty high up in the air. Worked extensively with the FAA inside that special event space as well.
When's that scheduled to go on?
So that's starting to go, we're just doing all of the in-ground grading now to start pulling another 60,000 square cubic yards of dirt out so you can put that tower down into it. Make sure that thing, you alleviate the sway. But that'll be done. CO on that is December of 21. Yeah.
Is that going to be the tallest tower?
Tallest tower up in that Metro Park Atlanta. I think a couple of the buildings down here downtown are a little bit bigger than that, but definitely for that part of Atlanta, there's nothing taller. Yeah, and then the office is 300,000 square feet. They've got half of that. Anyone interested in office space at a very good location? We're out in the marketplace, and then there's 140,000 square foot innovation technology lab and conference center. We're going to control the conference center for them at the base of that tower. So all in, the whole thing turned into, we'll bring 50 employees and build a tower into 600,000 square feet with all those jobs. And again, it's just another way of just churning that economy. 285. Just the picture of just energy that we create, and that's not even a game. I mean, it's just the energy that's created at the Battery. We did over 400 events last year, including our baseball games, 5K runs. We celebrate every holiday. Super Bowl was huge. We packed the place. 3 of the top 10 grossing restaurants in all of Atlanta will be there. That's our Omni Hotel, 265 rooms. It's first in class right now as far as all the Star Report numbers. Doing so well with the extension of the Omni. We actually need more rooms, but again, we tucked them in. That pipeline runs right behind there, so we couldn't build it any further. And this was a piece of a puzzle. And as I said, we were blowing and going. We built a 5 million gallon retention vault under our red deck. And when we started, no one said a word to me about retention vaults. But that's blowing and going, and it's the kind of things you had to pivot quick on. A night shot. This is, nothing like it anywhere in the country, really. We're the first team to ever build all of this at once. And as I said, now 100 teams coming through here, just looking at this, looking at the economic results that we've created. And as I said earlier, to me, this is the greatest public-private partnership that's existed, certainly in our space. So, when you're doing this, again, money, traffic, we felt good about traffic, we felt good about working with the state and the county and collaborating with them. $52 million of road enhancements around there. Matter of fact, all the offices there wish we played a baseball game every single day, because the traffic is much better when we have games, because we have police that are managing traffic, and they love it. So I'm glad we don't play baseball every day. I mean, we love our 81 games, so we don't need to do it every day. But so when you start this from the financial side, you're putting your finger up here a little bit. And this is what we think we're going to do to drive the economy. This is how we think we're going to create this many construction jobs and after permanent jobs. But now we're in the point where we know to the penny what we're generating. We know to the penny what we're paying in taxes, property, retail, liquor, permit fees. And we did it with Georgia Tech, provided them with all the information, the county did as well. And there was the first fiscal impact report that came out last summer. And these are the facts now. So the facts don't lie. And so you'll see that SunTrust Park and the Battery, including a halo effect, had a net additional impact of about $15 million to Cobb schools. I heard tons of narrative. Again, the evil empire, the Atlanta Braves, were going to ruin everyone's life up there, and then we were going to steal from the kids. And the absolute opposite has happened. First of all, the school system didn't put any money into the public participation of the stadium. But Chris Ragsdale, superintendent, he was standing right here, he's the biggest champion we have, because that's what we are actually putting in cash into the Cobb school system, more than he had when we got there. That number is just going to continue to grow every single year. $12.7 million is the halo effect. And the halo effect, by the way, again, fact-based. Georgia Tech 2012 took the Cumberland CID and did a study, and in 2017, based on after we were open, used the same footprint, and they saw the growth in that area at 46%. The next highest CID that they did the same type of study, 12 to 17, same footprint, was perimeter, and they were at 18%. I said, well, I think that's all 100% on us. Of course, we weren't going to do that in this formula. We took credit for 12% of that, and that's what created that halo effect. But since we announced this project, 5 new Class A office buildings were built. You see that $1 billion and $4.5 billion. That's the kind of lift they've seen. There's over, I think it was 3,000 new residentials within a mile of us, all got built. Land price, we bought the $49 million for the first 82 acres at 600,000 acres. About a year and a half later, I sold 5 acres for $2.4 million an acre. So we're driving, obviously, the economy up there, in addition to that halo effect. So a bunch of new developments, as I talked about, new hotels, and the 5 Class A office buildings. Again, those are just all the facts. I didn't create those. And then the big thing was, again, public-private partnership. So the county collectively let bonds for 30 years of $300 million. The Braves and Liberty put $1 billion, and that was phase 1, into the project. We've got another $300 million going into the project today. And the breakdown of that, public funding for the battery, you can see that it goes from 550 to 850. It's closer actually to $1 billion. This is an old slide. But here's the key where I say public-private partnership. And so when we started in 2015, the projection on the total debt service from the public side, and that includes the businesses and the self-taxing district of the Cumberland CID, you can see those top 2 numbers. Hotel, motel, took 5 minutes for them to say, yep, we're in for $3 a room. Why? We drove probably 125,000 additional hotel rooms last year. Our fan base, 25% come from outside the state of Georgia. They stay overnight. They did at Turner Field too. So it didn't change, just shifted from really downtown hotels to the Cumberland area. So they were all in. And the Braves are in for $6.1 million. And then the general fund, when it first started in 2013, the general fund contribution was going to be, I think, $8.6 million for 30 years of bond debt. That, when we got to 15, fortunately, we and the county got sued, and they took it to the Supreme Court. A revenue bond has never failed in the state of Georgia, but because of that delay, we were spending a lot of money, and we were all in. But that delay, the interest rates run down, so those individuals actually saved us a couple $1 million a year on debt service. So we were actually pretty happy about it after it was all said and done, because we did prevail. But the general fund in 2015 was projected at $6.4 million. The projection of what was paid last year actually went down $3.62 million. And what I just was on the phone with the finance director of the county, by the end of the 21 season, when we opened TK, the general fund of Cobb County Private Place probably is close to 0 contributions towards debt service. And again, I can't make that up, but that just shows that the public is going to be the recipient of all these tens of millions of dollars going to the general fund and the schools and driving that economy with 5,200 full-time jobs. like I said, I'll go in front of any sports conference anywhere and have a debate. Was this the field of schemes? And granted, there's some bad deals out there, and I won't mention the teams, but guys in our position, we gotta go get a deal. We gotta go get the best deal we can. That's what I'm here to represent from my organization. Just like all the businesses here, you're paid to do the right thing and paid to do it with integrity and ethics. But as I always tell my wife, I didn't hold an axe over someone's head to go do a deal. If they think it works for them, they're going to do it. It's no longer good enough to say, isn't this great for quality of life? And isn't it great to have a sports facility? A new one for you to go to, a new clubs. I'd be the first one to tell you that if it's just a standalone sports facility, it's very difficult to pencil out the numbers. What's making this all work is the battery and all the tax revenue from the property tax and the retail tax and the liquor tax, and that's what's driving this. That's what's paying for all this, not just SunTrust Park. First of all, SunTrust Park's not even on the property tax roll. It's taxes that we don't own it. The rec authority does. So again, this shifted, this changed how this business is done in America, and that's why all these teams are coming here. Cumberland CID, just the tax digest, you can see how it's changed, the revenue to the schools. Again, those numbers are going to get just better and better. You'll see in probably about 1 month, the 2018, these are all 2017 numbers. Some of it's still live. And that was opening day. Proud day for all of us. As I said, I speak for my guys here that are with me. None of us will ever be dumb enough to ever do this again. You want to do this once in your life, but it was an 8 to 10 year project. I stood in front of a bunch of developers. We were a couple months from opening, and I said, look, I'm not going to take offense to this, but when we laid out these pretty pictures and all the renderings 3 years ago, how many of you guys said no way and just chuckled, and they all raised their hands and said there's no way that any of these guys can pull this off? And it was a huge team effort. It was a conviction, a commitment, a passion. And we're proud to see the results. And the beauty of it is, no one should ever think that yes, we're in the real estate and development business, but it's supporting our certainly pursuit of winning a World Series and bringing it back here to Atlanta and Cobb County. I mean, that's at the core of what we do. It's in our soul. And we feel pretty good about the team we have in the field. It was a couple tough years, especially as we're doing this and we're losing and we're not playing well. But we've all worked hard to turn that around, and so I encourage you to come out there if you haven't and have a great time doing it. And, that's my story, and I'm kind of sticking to it. So I think that's it. Couple questions? Yes, sir. I'll go that way.
Do you foresee Marta coming to serve SunTrust Park?
So,
And if so, trains or...
yeah, we've said from day one when we made this announcement, our organization is all in for public transportation. And, I've said it, to the governor on down. I think the leadership, people that look like me, gray hair, have to stop thinking about how I want to get to these facilities, because I'm going to keep driving my car. That's my mode of transportation. My kids are okay taking public transportation. Make it efficient, make it safe, and make it effective in that. And they're going to use public transportation. So we're all in. We're all for it. It's just a matter of, okay, how do you figure out a more economical way to do it than $300 million a mile at this point, which is the number I get from Martin.
But do you foresee that happening, and if so, when?
I couldn't answer that. I have conversations with Robbie Ash twice a year, you know what's going on in the state. All the counties have a special interest tax that they can go after. Cobb's probably the last one to drag their feet a little bit because it's new, but we get asked, and we're all in encouraging them to jump on board and do something to certainly expand that public transportation. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I really enjoyed that presentation. I'm curious about the development of your vision. What models were you using, and when you first came up with the vision, what were the models?
Yeah, so it's interesting. When Shirley Franklin was the mayor, Shirley and I were on the board at ACOG together, and so I joined the Braves in November 2003, and within a couple months I realized And we got a golf course down here with no home sites around it. And unless you're Augusta, Cypress, Seminole, and a few others, that's the kiss of death in the golf cart. So that was kind of my analogy. I said, we have got to create a destination that people want to come to, notwithstanding us just playing games. So very quickly, within a year, had developed a 2.8 million square foot mixed-use development, a whole plan, business plan. Started talking to some developers. I had Shirley on board. I couldn't get the rec authority, a board of 7 volunteers, zero real estate development experience, to understand that we were going to be the driver. Because we had a lease, and we were not going to let someone build something outside our front door that we didn't control, because it would have an adverse operational and financial impact to us if we don't control it. I can't look you in the eye and say, oh yeah, don't worry about parking, it'll all be set. If I've got a development partner that could care less about where you park your car, they care about their development customers. So, control, and we were willing to put up our own money to do that. 8 years and everything to make that happen. So it really was, the vision started in 2004, and we just moved it 12 miles up the road. And so it didn't change much. It was create a destination 365. We went around to a few other places. There's really nothing like this. LA Live would be the closest, which does really well. Again, afterthought, Staples first, and then the mixed use. And we said, we got to do this all at once. And now, as I said, I mean, you look around the country, that's why all these guys are coming. This is what they want to do. And it's for 2 reasons. One, to create that destination. It's how you pay for the venue. It's how you can now justify saying, look, here's what we want the public to put in, but here's how you're going to get paid back. Here's why this formula is going to work. And everyone's asking us for our numbers now, because they're saying, look, just the Braves did it. It can happen. It's no longer sticking your finger up in the air and saying, I think you can generate X amount of money. Yes, sir.
Do you foresee any issues with the SunTrust merger?
No. Look, Bill and Allison, those guys are incredible partners. They're friends, and I understand. I mean, Allison called me that day the deal went down, and we got a good chuckle because, you know, some people were critical of us about doing this all in secret. They don't look at us as an economic driver, like you've seen some of those numbers, because people are emotionally attached to our team and our company. You're not emotionally attached to Coke. You either like Coke or you don't, you know, so, but I think it makes sense for them, and we're working with them. We've got to change a lot out there, and just, as I said to Allison, just want to make sure, I can't dictate what you do with your new brand, your logo, but don't make a big kite, because that kite's not going to work on the center field scoreboard, you know? So, it's called steel and structure and wind low, so try to keep that thing rectangle, not vertical. Okay, yes, sir. Oh, yeah. How you doing?
Hey, Mike, just reflecting on your experience with the Olympics, especially here in Atlanta, how does the Olympics help create a climate or a situation here in Atlanta for the growth of sports, for investments in the stadium, Mike?
Well, I mean, I guess one of the ways is it created this incredible amount of visibility and credibility for the city of Atlanta, for globally, for people to understand what could be done here in the South. It was only a short time ago, obviously, but you and I know a lot of Olympic cities. We all say good or bad. There's only a small amount that have this cachet that you feel comfortable that you could host the games, and the whole world's going to say, I've got to go there. Atlanta wasn't one of them, you know, and now it is. I think it has a great presence, and I think we get a bad rap for not being a great sports town. I think hopefully that's changed. The Super Bowl was, the organizing committee did a tremendous job, really, really fabulous job. And we've got great sports teams here, and I think we're also huge contributors to the community. I think we work really well hand in hand with the governments and that, so I think there's some pretty good results in what we do annually in this town. And hopefully, more people see it. As I said, we've had teams from all over the world come here, and they leave here with their heads spinning.
Any advice for Tokyo?
No, I'm not going to do
It's
that.
too late.
I love Tokyo. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. How many more? 2 more?
2 more, yeah.
Okay.
I just have a comment. We live near Ruby Hill and Powers Ferry, which is like just a couple miles
Yes.
from the stadium. And we were very, very worried about you guys building that facility. But I want to say that we've been very pleasantly surprised that the impact has not been bad. It's been actually very positive, and I can still find sometimes a parking space at Costco. And I was worried about all the parking and everything. And to the comment about transportation, Mike Boyce, who is the head of the Cobb County Commission, is having a series of town hall meetings about transportation that starts next week.
Yep.
So maybe perhaps something will get decided or resolved.
All right, one more, I'm sorry, one more in the back.
Speaking of Olympics and the Super Bowl, I understood, if I'm correct, that the old stadium is slightly larger, seating-wise. I'm not sure if that's
Yeah,
correct.
it's Turner Field is 50, and we're at 41 and change.
So are we set up for, or are you considering the World Series, and are we set up for the World Series?
We'll host that thing this year. I think we're set up for it every year. Yeah. You know, if you look at most of the new baseball stadiums that have been built, and even the Red Sox and some of the older ones, the wheelhouse is in the 38 to 43,000 range. Again, we play 81 games, a lot of games. And so you don't build for a few, you build for all of them. And it's worked well. This one we built for, we couldn't have football games at Turner Field. You know, we had the first football game through that Turner Field because of the type of grass and irrigation we had. So we built this one to do other things. But look, we can get to the World Series, let me tell you, we're gonna rock the place and sell it out pretty easily. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Mike. Let's give him another round of applause. We've been working with Paul and the Atlanta Braves for, gosh, ever since I've been a director with the society for over 12 years, and we've hosted multiple group outings, and which we'll do many more this year. So go Braves, and Paul, thanks so much for all your support over the years. And ladies and gentlemen, now to our second speaker. Before we introduce Mr. Yamaguchi, I also wanted to recognize Professor Akihiro Nezu from Obidin University. He is our MVP of our Obidin and Japan-American Society partnership. He's the person that's made it able for us to have all these programming with students from Japan, from the long-term programs and also the short-term programs. So Professor Nezu, you want to stand up and say hello? He was actually the person who introduced us to Mr. Yamaguchi, so we really appreciate not only Mr. Yamaguchi being able to come all the way from Japan, but Professor Nezu introducing us and making it possible for Mr. Yamaguchi to come. So, but without further ado, Ichiro Yamaguchi is a senior member of the Olympics and Paralympics Promotion Office at the Mainichi Shimbun newspaper company in Japan. While the Paralympics was less regarded in Japan after the 1964 Olympics in Tokyo, Mr. Yamaguchi found that the Paralympics has recently gained recognition, especially with the upcoming 2020 Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics. So before working at the Mainichi Shimbun newspaper company, he worked as a ski instructor as well as swim instructor, also a sports instructor for the handicapped and for people with special needs. So he's been involved with the sports industry for many years in Japan. As a member of the Mainichi newspaper company, he's published sports articles in Osaka and cultural articles in Hiroshima, while covering multiple stories on para sports as well. With the 2020 Olympics coming up and approaching, he aims to produce more coverage and more exposure and raising awareness about the Paralympics and para sports with it, different points of views and perspectives. So I know it's 2 a.m. in Japan, maybe 3 a.m. now, but with a round of applause, let's introduce and ask Mr. Yamaguchi to come up.
Good afternoon, Atlanta. one thing I have to say, I was an exchange student to Grand Rapids, Michigan, so I'm a fan of Detroit Tigers. So, the World Series this year will compete with Atlanta Braves. Of course, the opponent is the Tigers. And the result will be 4 wins, 3 losses. Which gonna win? Thank you very much for coming today, and thank you for inviting me, Mr. Domoto. Domo arigato, Mr. Domoto. Domoto. I'm not a robot, but made in Japan. So you're wondering who I am. He introduced me some, but there are some mistakes. So let me introduce myself first. My family name is Yamaguchi. Yama means mountain, and Guchi means mouth. And Ichiro is the first cheerful boy for our family. And cheerful, #1 boy. And as you have mentioned, my name is the same as a famous Major League Baseball player. Do you know what number he has? Someone? Yes?
What? What is he number?
No. Ichiro Suzuki's number.
Oh,
Playing in high school was 1-5. I believe this difference made salary difference between us. Well, I'm a senior member of Olympics and Paralympics promotion office at my newspapers. The oldest 140. This is a messy one. I joined to the Mainichi in 1990, and both of my parents are physical education teachers. And yes, I used to be a ski instructor, and I have a license of swimming instructor and what do you say? Sports instructor for people with an impairment. I came here like this. 16-hour flight and out. And this is my second time to come to Atlanta. The first time was, I thought it was the first time I went to Florida. Spring camp of baseball team. Our team was 27 wins, 7 losses. And that's number 15, Ichiro Yamaguchi. Well, now moving on the introduction of my speech. First of all, do you figure out what kind of money it is? Yen? Yes. Right. 10 billion yen. How much is it? For US dollars?
100 million?
100 million. Yeah, the price is right. Yes. I calculated this morning. $90 million. It's a big money. Well, there's no business like show business. It must be a show with this big money. And what is it for? There is the Nippon Foundation, which is a private non-profit grant-making organization. That's a Sakawa Peace Foundation that hosts this session as a group of Nippon Foundation as supporting national federations of para sports In addition, in 2014, 40% of our sports organizations did not have their own office, and 70% did not have a full-time staff. Some 30 federations use this office now. You know, it was about $90 million. It was a huge incident to us in Japan. Tokyo won the election for the 2020 Games in 2013. People are interested in just in Olympics, but not in Paralympics very much. And they made an arena to let para athletes practice. So the content of my speech is following. Sports in Japan, especially para sports these days. For about 24 years, I have been covering para sports or sports for people with an impairment. It is one of the earliest newspaper reporters in Japan to start covering this theme. And I hear this phrase so many times. We cannot declare the success of the Tokyo 2020 without success of the Paralympic Games. That's a one keyword. We say this, most of the people who are working for the upcoming Tokyo 2020, like the organization committee, Japan Olympic Committee, Japan Paralympic Committee, and sponsors, and so on. It means we have to prepare good enough for the Paralympics in 2020, and it has to be the best one. Not the second best like Ellie Oakley. Ellie's second best was Frank Butler, who was talked about the para sports and the Paralympic sports briefly. What is para sport? Are there any people who are interested in para sports or Paralympics? Highlights from the Rio 2016 Paralympics. Well, this is a conceptual diagram of sports, and I think one thing you may have to understand is you sports up there. Kind of new sports of Japanese man's idea. And finally, I am studying and going to talk about Tokyo 2020 Games, and we have published and what we can do. This is the homepage of Tokyo 2020 Games, and Olympics will be held in July to August, and after that, the Paralympics will be going on. And I show the answer right now. How many gold medals do you think the Olympic athletes compete?
339.
Great. 339. How about the Paralympics? Do you figure out? Believe it or not? Pardon me? 143. The price is not wrong. The price is not right. Let's begin again. Try another way. 540. That's because classification or impairment types. Next question. Who won the men's 100 meters dash in Rio de Janeiro 2016? Great. Usain Bolt, woman. Not American, not Japanese, unfortunately. And you have to know and you will find it Paralympic medals more of number 16. That's because of classification. Now, number 2, we have published how did the managed newspapers support Rio 2016. There's Paralympic pages, and here's the yesterday's paper of ours, and we usually put TV and radio programs right here, and we took them away and put our sports page right here, like this. Too early? Okay. And how about in 1964, it is the first article of Paralympics in the database of the lineage, and it's on November 8, 1964. And this is it, that's all. In 1964. And I searched all the Paralympic articles of our newspaper. So these are the earliest 10 articles: 64, 69, 85, some of 88, and 90. That's all. That I think, reasons that I think are, no, Paralympics was not famous or popular. And few writers covered or were interested. And the database itself is poor because we didn't use computers at the time. And one more thing, unfortunately, I can show you on picture, but because of copyright, in 2012, that's for the London Paralympic, Japan Paralympic Committee announced the Japanese delegation, and the rival newspaper, the Asahi, introduced the bearer of flags, national flags. The Yomiuri did not write an article on sports pages, and the Sankei just showed representatives announced. And the Nikkei, it's a economic paper, but very has very big influence. Not write a word. And only the Mainichi reported the list of the members. It was 1 year before we won the election for 2020. That's a big difference. We had, and recent for summer, as for recent for summer Olympic Games, how did we do? That's just a number. In Rio, we published 3,431 articles. And if you focus on Rio and Paralympics, we had 1,584 articles. And those numbers are increasing and increasing, games by games. Well, number one priority is articles, of course, for a newspaper company. And we made the Mainichi Universal Committee, which members discuss how we live safely, easily, without barriers, and so forth. For instance, we investigated the platform doors at 271 train stations. Those stations are used by over 100,000 people a day. Only 30% of the stations have the platform doors. many people fell down to the red area, and some were killed. The number becomes better, though. We often host these kinds of forums recently. Those are Paralympians. And not only us. The Tokyo Chamber of Commerce and Industry hosted a watcher meeting in December last year. 47 companies participated in the competition. Tokyo Metropolitan Government made a potato chips with power sports athletes. They gave chips at the power sports event for free. And students of Sophie University in Tokyo made a group to learn Olympics and Paralympics, which name is Go Beyond. About 80 students hosted kinds of events, like inviting athletes, visiting companies, going to watch para sports match, and so on. Meanwhile, we also had a bad news. The Nippon Foundation will close the Paralympic Sports Center and the Para area after Tokyo 2020 Games. That Japanese often say that we have to leave legacy of 2020. But the Para Arena will not to be even a legacy venue. It will become the worst economic effect that sports had in Japan by the time of Atlanta Rugby has completed, right? In 2020, 2022, something like that. How come it will happen? They explain that they are supporting the national federations to stand alone themselves. And because this is a place for park, so only a temporary venue would be allowed to be built because of laws. So the Para Arena will be disappeared a little after the 2020 Games. Toward the end of 1980s, Japan enjoyed favorable business conditions called the bubble economy. But Japan suffered the collapse of absurd prices in early 1990s, and severe economic conditions continued thereafter. So, you know what I said? I joined in Mainji in 1990s. Everybody except us calls us bubblies. The bubblies from the others. Now we are afraid of the collapse of para bubble. I want to show you on the video. The answer is apostrophe. Impossible to apostrophe. Just a little change causes a big difference. Here's Sir Ludwig Gutmann, the father of the Paralympics, says, "It is not our disabilities, it is our abilities that count. It is our abilities that count means I am possible." That's what I think. This is my conclusion for this session, and don't worry for listening. And I'm sorry, my English was best when I was 17, so if you have any questions, please speak slowly and use plain English. And now I'm 53 and my English is getting worse and worse. So if you have no questions, I'm going back to Japan right now.
How did you first become?
Intentionally. I had a back pain when I was 27, 28 years old. And I just laid down for 1 week and 2 years in a row. And we had a big earthquake in Japan in 1995. If we have a big earthquake right now, I will die or will use wheelchair or something. So, but I have a pen as a writer. I should have used it. I will change this world with my pen. What's the nearest or closest way to do that? That should be to write the disabilities life, art, sports, and so on. That's what I thought. Is that okay? Thank you. And before we die, my father was a physical education teacher. As I told, he used a wheelchair when he died, just before he died, at the age of 63. Everybody will go this way. That's what I thought. Yes.
So my question, so
Yes.
you're a specialist and I think expert in Paralympics and parasports. So how Japan manages parasports and Paralympics, how is it different from America and how is it different from other countries in the world?
I have a question to you. Do you think there are any difference between usual sports sport and parasports? Do you separate with each other? Maybe you are interested in football, and basketball, baseball, and something like that. That's why it's popular, right? In Japan, we still have discrimination to the disabilities. So even if players of parasports do good performance, they don't see straight, he's a disability or something like that. I want to change that mind with my pen. Is that okay?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
What has been the reaction of readers to your coverage when you put the results of the Paralympic Games in the newspaper? Are people reading it? How do you get them interested?
Before the readers, athletes and coaches are all pleased because they have not experienced to be written in newspaper or magazine articles. And supporters of them were also pleased. And the other readers are just learning that I think, just learning to know parasports right now. So the world of parasports in Japan is just changing right now. Thank you. Yes?
I teach swimming for fun, and the kids that don't have all the faculties as a normal student, or some of the best of all faculties, they're the most rewarding to teach. And I'm just curious, one is I've worked 2 Olympics, but I don't know where the Paralympics are organized internationally. Is it under IOC or someplace else? And
IPC. IPC.
What?
IPC,
And
International
what country
Paralympic.
is that in? Which country?
Which country organized? In Germany.
It's a German, okay. And then the next question is, has there been any people that have competed that would qualify for the Paralympics but competed in the regular Olympics?
Yes.
And what sport was that, and what years might that have been?
Some people challenge the original Olympic, like archery. You can sit and hit. And one runner from South Africa attended the Olympics, but he was arrested because of murder. So I don't think he will be back to the sports event anymore. So the number of para-athletes who will attend the Olympics will be increasing, I think. Do you understand?
Not the last word, what did you say?
Pardon me? More para-athletes will attend Olympics. That's what I hope. Thank you.
One more question.
Yes.
So how is the coming of the Paralympics to Tokyo affecting the city's policy towards disabled people? Are there more building codes being introduced? Are there different changes to the way to the accessibility of public transit?
Good question. I would have people from the Tokyo 2020 organization right here. It's a big problem. Well, on accessibility, we are constructing many places right now, so it will be better to move for any people in 2020. But as for our company, wheelchair people have hard time to get in our company. That's a problem. We should change those problems.
Are there laws for new buildings? Like if you're building a new structure, do you have to have accessibility as part of the construction? Like we have that American Disability Act.
Yes, we do have that kind of laws, and well, as for new buildings, there's a new rules. So they construct with new rule. But as for old buildings, it can be changed very easily.
Great, let's give Mr. Yamaguchi a round of applause. Great, at this time, I want to welcome the President of the National Association of Japan American Societies, Mr. Peter Kelly, for some closing remarks. Good afternoon.
afternoon all. I'm Peter Kelly from the National Association of Japan American Societies in Washington, D.C. It's always a pleasure to come here for this group. You have such a wonderful society here. There are 38 Japan American Societies all around the country. And the Japan American Society of Georgia is one of the most active and most respected of our members. I work for the National Association, and our job is to provide this kind of programming to our members. We have different program offerings throughout the year, business speaker series, youth exchange programs, cultural programs, and the public affairs program. This is the public affairs program. And this year, 11 Japan American Societies across the country are doing this Japan Update public affairs program. Each of the societies chooses the theme. It's all locally chosen. It just helps to get the speakers and, of course, the funding. So 2 weeks ago, we were in Houston, and the subject there was the export of natural gas between the United States and Japan, which is going to start in April. That's a big deal for Japan because it's a secure source of energy. And of course, it's a big deal for Texas because they put so much money into the ground, and now they want to get some money back out of it. We were in New York 2 weeks ago, and the subject was trade, the bilateral trade negotiations, which are beginning to start between the United States and Japan. And both the experts from the Japan side and from the U.S. side said they had no idea what was going to happen in the bilateral trade negotiations, which is a source of uncertainty in our relationship. And yesterday we were in St. Louis, where we found out that there's a lot of Japanese investment in the agricultural technology, the application of technology to agriculture, which is one of the biggest sources of U.S. exports to Japan. So in this series, as you go around the country, you see all sorts of different ways, different elements of the U.S.-Japan relationship, both diplomatic, trade, and strategic. It's been a very good series. And here today, we saw another unique program from the society here in Georgia. This is the first time many of our members have done a program about sports and the impact of sports on both the local area and on the U.S.-Japan relationship. I thought Mike's presentation was terrific about the congratulations on building such a wonderful stadium in a short time. You said that you had 8 years of discussions about a downtown ballpark. My hometown is Boston, and we've been having discussions about our downtown ballpark for 108 years. Congratulations on your achievement. And if you looked at an overhead view of Fenway Park in Boston, the thing that you would see that is so different than what you built is there are no parking spaces in Boston. If you want to go to the ball game, you can solve that problem yourself. But here you have taken such a proactive view, and congratulations on that. And Yamaguchi-san described the focus in Japan on the Paralympics. Japan has been interested in the Paralympics for quite a long time, and the attention that you're devoting to it is a big part of the success of it. And you'll notice if you have a chance to meet Yamaguchi-san, please get his card. His card has Braille on it. And if you, although he downplayed a bit of the
Braille newspaper, maybe the only Braille newspaper in the world. 97 years.
Anybody who has changed trains at a station in Japan knows that on the platforms, down the stairs, and out of the exits are those yellow ribbed pathways. If you're blind in Japan, you can get off the train, go down the station, and out into the world, never leaving a pathway that's there especially for people who are blind. It's a huge investment and something that we don't see anywhere in the world except in Japan. So congratulations on the efforts that Japan has made and the promotion that you've done. Most of the time in this program also the societies ask for some form of prediction about what's going to happen. Usually it has to do with the U.S. and Japan. But here today you now know that the World Series in 2018 will be between the Atlanta Braves and the Detroit Tigers. And it's going to go 7 games. So there you go. And let me close then by also mentioning that one of the other things that the National Association of Japan American Societies do is we are the U.S. administrator for the Keisai Koho Teacher Fellows Program, which selects annually 10 American teachers from all over the country who've never been to Japan, sends them to Japan for a study tour. Georgia has been one of the most active participants in that program and one of the most successful participants in the program. We have 2 Keisai Koho Teacher Fellows who are here with us. Stand up, Mike and Brent. And they will be taking a group of high school students who are also with them there to Japan later in March for their first visit. So that's another aspect of the U.S.-Japan relationship here in Georgia. So thank you all for coming, and congratulations again to the Japan American Society for such a wonderful program.
Thank you so much, Peter, for all the support that you provide, not only our society here in Georgia, but throughout the country. We really appreciate all that you do, and all of the work promoting U.S.-Japan relations won't be possible without your support, so thank you very much. But at this time, we will finish our program, but for those of you interested in seeing the private kind of a tour of the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta, it's a fascinating tour. You get to see how heavy a gold bar is. You'll see how cash and millions of dollars here are processed and managed, and the robots that are used to kind of move things to the vault, and how money is shredded. Unfortunately, they don't make it here, but they shred it here, right? But this is a great opportunity to kind of learn more about the Federal Reserve System. But for those of you interested, I think we'll be meeting right outside this room, and then we'll have I believe Amy Hennessy and Crystal and other team members of the Federal Reserve Bank taking people on a tour. So please join us for the tour if you're interested. But as for the society, we do have some other upcoming events as well. March 14th, in a couple weeks, we're collaborating with the French American Chamber of Commerce to do a wine and sake mixer. So you can enjoy all of the great wines from France and then all of the great sake from Japan while networking with other individuals in the international business industries. And then also a few weeks later after that, on March 24th, we're collaborating with the Atlanta Gladiators, speaking of sports, our local hockey team, to do a Japanese American appreciation game where proceeds for the ticket sales will be donated back to the English Japanese immersion school here, the International Charter Academy of Georgia. And then of course, we'll be working with the Atlanta Braves to do some outings. We always do one in August, but then we hope to do one also earlier in the season as well, and cheer our home team on so that we can reach the 7-game series here at the SunTrust Park, right? So hopefully we can get the home field advantage. And then of course our marquee event of the year, Japan Fest, September 21st and 22nd. Please mark your calendars, September 21st and 22nd. It's the third weekend of September. It's the largest Japanese festival in the Southeast, from Japanese music, food, performances, workshops, and various cultural exhibits, shopping, anime and manga, certainly. It's 20,000 people strong each year, so definitely join us. We'll be sending out more details soon, but definitely join us for all of our upcoming events. But first things first, let's enjoy the tour first, and look forward to seeing you again very soon. Thank you very much.